Good evening, everyone. There is one person that's trying to get in that we're currently having some technical difficulties. So we're going to try and let him in. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jara Stefik, and I'm Supervisor of Corporate Communications for Norfolk County. Tonight, I'll be your moderator for the virtual engagement session on the 2022 budget. Please note that the session is being recorded, so it can be posted later on the county website. Perfect. Okay. I'm joined in the room by our General Manager of Corporate Services, Shelley Darlington, Manager of Strategic Financial Planning and Reporting, Catherine Fanning, Supervisor of Financial Planning and Reporting, Chris Everetts, and on the line, Norfolk's Treasurer, Kathy LaPlante, as well as several other members of Council. The purpose of tonight's session is to give an overview of the municipal budget, answer any questions you might have about the budget process, and gather feedback for presentation to Council in advance of budget deliberations. We're going to kick things off with a message from the Chair of our Budget Committee, Ward 2 Councillor Linda Vandendriessche, followed by a pre-recorded presentation from the Finance team, and close the session with some focused conversational and general question and answers.
Hello.
Sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties. Okay. Just one moment, please.
We're going to try that again.
Good evening. I'm Linda Vandendriessche, Councillor for Ward 2 and Chair of Norfolk County Budget Committee. I'd like to thank the residents who participated in the 2022 budget survey and those participating in tonight's meeting. The time you are taking to provide this valuable feedback will help Council and staff to better understand your views on items such as investments in core and soft services for residents as well as tax increases. The budget setting is one of the most important roles of municipal council. Through the process, it is our objective to ensure your hard-earned tax dollars are being used in the most efficient, equitable, and balanced way. These different kinds of public engagement help us to make more informed decisions on what our county wants and needs. I'm truly excited to be a part of the decision to make Norfolk County even better in 2022. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you for joining the Norfolk County Virtual Information Engagement Session on the 2022 Municipal Budget and Financial Sustainability. My name is Shelley Darlington, and I'm the General Manager of Corporate Services. I am pleased to be part of the public engagement session on the county's budget process. To start, we would like to thank everyone for taking time from their busy lives to participate and assist in Norfolk County's 2022 budget and future direction. I would like to introduce the staff who will be participating in this presentation. Kathy LaPlante is the county's treasurer and director of financial management and planning. Catherine Fanning is the county's manager of strategic financial planning and reporting. And Chris Everetts is our supervisor of financial planning and reporting. County services impact your life every day. Each time you visit a recreation center or an arena, borrow a book from the library, have your garbage or recycling picked up, drink clean water from the tap, or have emergency services rush to your aid, you are using a Norfolk County service. That's why the county's budget and this engagement session is so important. It's about setting our collective goals and building a great county. Your feedback will help determine the level of service provided to county residents and help guide decisions. The purpose of today's session is to walk you through the budget process and what this looks like for Norfolk County. We will cover the what and why, outline the 2022 budget process and establish guidelines, discuss some of the challenges facing Norfolk County, provide some details on the where and how, outline steps moving forward, and review the public engagement survey. At the end of the presentation, there will be an opportunity for our question and answer period. I will pass it over to Kathy LaPlante to speak to the what and the why.
Thank you, Shelley. The following few slides will outline the what and whys about budgeting. Basically, this part of the presentation will be a very quick Municipal Budgeting 101 overview. So what is a budget? The budget determines the level of service provided to residents, as well as what infrastructure will be purchased, built, and repaired. In essence, the budget reflects the county's priorities by voting with dollars. The budget is a financial plan that sets out the county's planned expenditures and the methods of financing those expenditures. It provides a statement of priorities, establishes spending limits on programs and services, and also reflects funding practices and policies. Overall, this document is the basis of financial decision making. This document is also a political document for council and a management document for staff. Therefore, the budget is a key planning document in achieving the county's strategic priorities. Sounds pretty simplistic. However, the budget is not so simple and not just a document that sits on everyone's shelf. The budget also links to operational plans by providing financial resources in order to implement divisional plans to achieve Norfolk County's Council's strategic plan goals, and in order to provide and deliver services, and in order to implement recommendations from master plans, studies, and changes in existing service levels. In addition, the budget is a communication to inform and educate residents and community stakeholders about budget issues and pressures. Plus, it is used to seek input on the types of services and levels of services desired. That answers what is a budget, but why does it matter to you as a resident, business, and taxpayer? The county provides a lot of services that you use day to day, such as garbage and recycling, drinking water, fire and paramedic services, snow clearing, public health, recreational and cultural services, and much more. The budget influences the level of each of these services and, most importantly, impacts how much you pay through taxes and water rates. Next question is, why do we budget? We do have a legal requirement under Section 290 of the Municipal Act to adopt estimates required during the coming year for purposes of the county. Besides the legal requirement, the county needs to be fiscally accountable to former, current, and future taxpayers, plus businesses and investors, in order to allocate dollars responsibly based on the community and council's priorities and needs. The overall goal is to achieve long-term strategic goals and rate stability. There are three main principles when developing a budget. They are to be financially sustainable now and in the future by providing and maintaining programs at acceptable levels of taxation, to maintain a degree of financial flexibility to be able to adapt to changing circumstances, and lastly, to minimize vulnerability by considering the reliance on sources of funding outside the county's control or influence, and by strategically allocating funding sources in a sustainable manner. In addition, some supplemental principles include to make financial decisions that are aligned with the strategic plan and corporate priorities, and to provide services in an efficient manner with the resources available. Also, to provide services at an equitable and fair amount, and that services are provided at a rate that reflects the value and level of services provided, plus, to the greatest extent possible, those who benefit from the services pay for the services, and finally, to be transparent with key stakeholders by clearly communicating key challenges and considerations in financial decisions. This slide presented outlines and provides details and the differences between budgets that the county produces annually. As mentioned previously, the county's annual budget results in a key financial report that directs the county's operations and aligns service delivery. There are 3 annual budgets developed and approved by council. The operating budget, rate, or also known as the water and wastewater operating budget, and the 10-year capital plan. The operating budget plans for the day-to-day activities of the county, including salaries, materials, supplies, services, utilities, insurance, and debt payments. And it also sets the amount of taxes that needs to be raised in that year. Services provided from tax dollars include protective services like fire, EMS services, and bylaw compliance. Operational services such as snow removal, line painting, pothole and road repair, building maintenance, and maintenance of local parks, including soccer, baseball, passive, and dog parks. And then community services such as community planning, economic development, and tourism services. Lastly, administration services such as legal and human resources are also included. The operating budget is financed from tax dollars, from user fees, from provincial and federal grants, and lastly, from items such as investment income, donations, and contributions from reserves to fund activities like the election or activities that occur annually. Unlike the higher levels of government, we cannot incur debt to finance day-to-day activities, and the budget must be balanced. Any deficit at year-end is required to be charged to the next year's budget, or the county may have a policy to fund from reserves or reserve funds. Similar for a surplus, it can be used to reduce next year's budget, or the county can also have a policy in place to transfer the excess tax dollars to reserves for future requirements or to offset years where a deficit occurs. The rate budget is similar to the operating budget. However, it provides the amount of dollars that need to be raised from water and wastewater rates. Water and wastewater rates are driven by the operating and infrastructure needs and are highly sensitive to consumption and the number of users, as the amount to produce potable water and to maintain wastewater collection and treatment plants is 100% recoverable from the users. The capital plan plans for the purchase and financing of the big things, such as building, machinery, and equipment, roads, bridges, buildings, water plants, and other infrastructure. Due to the multi-year nature of these items, debt is permitted, but must be done responsibly. The capital plan is financed from reserves, such as savings, provincial and federal grants, development charges for projects related to growth, and taxation revenues. Taxation revenues are required where there are no alternative financing sources available. In summary, now let's look at the similarities and differences between operating and capital budgets. Both budgets provide for services and programs delivered. The types of expenditures differ. Sources of financing differ. Operating budgets provide for the annual cost to deliver service and maintain infrastructure. Capital budgets provide for the replacement and new infrastructure and planned over a longer term, and many projects will not be completed in 1 year. You may have already noticed, both types of budgets are interconnected. The operating budget will fund capital infrastructure through debenture borrowing and pay annual principal and interest costs, known as the pay-as-you-go plan, plus through contributions to reserves from the tax levy to fund capital projects. And it also includes any increased or reduced operating costs as a result of infrastructure decisions. On the other side, the capital budget will include funds from the tax levy or water rates, where there are no reserves or reserve funds to finance certain capital needs, plus debt charges to finance costs related to infrastructure where no other funding sources are available.
Thanks, Kathy. Now we will turn our focus to Norfolk County and our process. For the 2022 budget process, significant internal budget preparation has already begun in order to meet the timeline. This slide shows the dates that staff are presenting to the Budget Committee and the planned timeline for the budget engagement process. In September, staff started the public engagement process by launching a 2022 budget webpage on the Norfolk County website, as well as launching an online survey. The survey results will be touched on later within this presentation. Tonight's meeting is another important step in hearing from you, the residents of Norfolk County, while developing next year's budget. For the remaining public process, we held our first meeting with the Budget Committee on October the 12th. At this meeting, we had presentations from 2 boards, and the committee also approved the draft 2022 user fees. In terms of what is coming next, on November the 2nd and 3rd, we will be presenting the capital budget and 10-year plan to the Budget Committee. This plan will discuss the infrastructure replacements and enhancements for the community planned over the next 10 years. This will be followed by the presentation of the rate-supported operating budget on November the 9th, where the committee will adopt the rates to be paid for water and wastewater services. Finally, the levy-supported operating budget will be presented and deliberated on January 12th and 13th. This presentation will set the tax rate change for 2022. As always, these sessions are live streamed and recorded so that you can catch them in real time remotely or later on the YouTube channel. For the 2022 budget, Council has provided staff with guidance. The overarching principles to be used when developing the 2022 budget include involving stakeholders where possible, including things like this meeting, and inviting boards and BIAs to present to the committee on their anticipated needs, as well as the completion of the online survey. The second overall principle approved was to focus on ensuring services are provided to the county in the most efficient and effective way. For the capital budget, the recommended guidance includes selecting projects based on the information gathered from the asset management plan, which includes considering the risks and needs analysis when identifying which projects and the timelines that these projects should occur. As well, project managers were also requested to review their ongoing projects that have experienced delays and keep in mind their capacity when recommending which projects to proceed with in 2022. Now let's talk about the guidance recommended for the levy budget. Overall, a net levy increase of 3.4%, or a total of $110.7 million is being targeted. In order to reduce the median residential impact to a 2.5% increase, or $70 annually, it is recommended that the first $1 million of assessment growth revenue be applied against the tax levy increase. Any growth over this amount is being recommended to be transferred to the reserves. Initially forecasted in the 2021 budget, it was anticipated that the impact on the average homeowner would be a 4.5% increase for 2022. Due to the surplus that was generated in 2020 and the ability to direct a portion of these funds to the reserves, it is recommended that lower reserve transfers than initially planned be contemplated for 2022. This will provide residents and businesses with a lower tax increase to act as a relief after significant tax increases over the last 2 years, as well as financial impacts related to the pandemic. In order to meet this target, there will be little to no room to support new initiatives unless a higher tax increase is approved. Other guidance points adopted include the removal of the levy relief strategy. In 2021, Council adopted the use of $2 million from the Legacy Fund in order to reduce the tax increase during the pandemic. The repayment of the funds used from the legacy was approved to be funded from the 2020 year-end surplus. However, the $2 million in revenue originally budgeted from the legacy fund must also be removed from the budget in 2022, as this strategy will no longer provide tax relief, which will result in a tax increase. Council also adopted strong business cases where service level enhancements are being presented, including offsetting cost savings initiatives to offset the impact of the levy. Lastly, guidance was adopted to focus on continued implementation of prior approved options to ensure savings targets that were set in the past are realized, as well as maintain the key financial and budgetary policies that have been established within the last 2 budgetary cycles. In terms of guidance within the rate budget, it was recommended that we stay the course on the multi-year rate increase strategy that was adopted during the 2021 budget when the rate strategy was approved. This multi-year strategy was approved in order to address the significant infrastructure gap while considering the financial sustainability of residents and businesses. This plan includes the recommendation that an additional 1% special capital charge be incorporated in the rates for 2022. When looking at what this means for the average residential charge, it is anticipated that this will result in approximately 6% or $6 per month. In order to meet the guidance for rate and levy budgets, work will need to be done on controlling costs. Which brings me to the next point. Cost control challenges. As can be seen on the slide above, there are some challenges presented that are not unique to Norfolk. Things like financial pressures, COVID-19, inflationary costs, uncertainty with government funding, aging infrastructure, and competing needs and wants are felt by all municipalities. In addition, Norfolk County has some specific challenges, such as our financial position, our rural area with high kilometers of roadway, and our high number of facilities per person and our low assessment growth. These unique challenges also make some of the general pressures more pronounced. Our low reserves mean we have no funds for on a rainy day. This makes us more susceptible to inflationary costs and changes in government funding. Further, our high infrastructure means that we have a lot of aging assets to maintain and replace. With no savings to pay for the replacement, we have to fund them directly through tax revenue or debt. This puts us in a pay-as-you-go scenario, which further magnitudes the strain on wants versus needs. I will now pass things off to Chris, who will discuss how we will move forward and what the results were of the public engagement survey.
Thanks, Catherine. As covered by Shelley, Kathy, and Catherine, we provide a lot of services to the community. This slide lists a few of them. The diversity that makes us uniquely Norfolk also makes our wants and needs diverse. One person's wants and needs could be completely different than another's. As Kathy mentioned at the beginning, the purpose of the budget is to allocate dollars to priorities. This brings us down to the fundamental dilemma. How do we decide? In the past, budgets were assessed and changed to reflect planned operations within all of the departments and divisions of the county. The senior leadership team would review the details in aggregate and propose the final draft budget to council for consideration and adoption. There has been a shift in accountability through variance reporting and enhanced county-wide collaborations in order to optimize efficiencies. Our focus has been to engage the public through the online budget survey and launch of the 2022 budget website. As we look forward, not only will we be enhancing the public engagement strategy, staff have also recommended to council that they consider participatory budgeting within the budget process. Participatory budgeting will allow residents the opportunity to allocate resources, prioritize policies and projects, and monitor spending. This is a concept staff plan to work toward in future years. It is hoped that public engagement in budget planning will increase transparency and accountability and improve confidence in the county's decisions. As mentioned, an important step that the county undertook this year was to launch a website and survey to help residents better understand the budget setting process and have their say on what services matter most to them and how to prioritize municipal spending. The online survey asked 11 budget-focused questions. It is designed to get feedback in a way that can be easily summarized and actioned. The questions are meant to get background information to put results into context, determine what matters most by ranking services, determine the desired direction for infrastructure, determine the optimum balance for services and costs, and get feedback and comments on the priorities of residents. All of the results received from the online survey were summarized and presented to Council on October 12th for review in advance of the upcoming budget sessions. Additionally, the information received from today's session will be summarized to inform Council as well as being published on the 2022 budget website. Some results of the survey to highlight include value for service. 50% feel good value is provided for the property taxes paid, while 39% feel good value is provided for the water and wastewater rates that are paid. 55% showed support for keeping tax rate increases at or below the rate of inflation. As well, a common theme through many responses was that core services were the highest priority for investment. Now I'll pass it back to Shelley to discuss some areas of focus and further questions to consider.
Next are some follow-up topics and questions to help guide our discussion during the question and answer period. This slide shows the major service areas where the 2021 approved budget was allocated based on every dollar of property taxes. When prioritizing services, it becomes a balancing act of what proportion of each tax dollar you would like to see allocated to each area. What areas would you adjust if you were developing the budget? One of the main themes of the engagement strategy was to solicit feedback on the need for infrastructure investments. Question 6 and question 7 of the survey focused on infrastructure. Survey respondents were asked to rank in order of priority where the most taxpayer money should be invested. The main focus was investing in our core infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, water and wastewater, and emergency services. It was interesting to see that investing in or providing services that foster development and employment opportunities in the county was the second highest ranking, followed by investment in soft services such as recreational services, libraries, and museums. Lower on the list of priorities in order of rank were high-speed internet connectivity, affordable housing, and lastly, increasing tourism. As a follow-up, what is the top area you would like to see an improvement in service in regarding infrastructure investment? Would it be roads, recreation, water and wastewater, libraries, or other? As part of the corporate realignment project, recent changes to county operations have been implemented with the intent of greater collaboration, increasing overall efficiencies. While there have been many effective changes implemented, we're always looking for ways to continuously improve. Several questions within the survey focused on services provided and how to prioritize those that are most important to residents of Norfolk County. One way to improve services or continue to deliver the same service at a lower cost is to improve efficiency. Do you have ideas for how to improve the efficiency of a county service or how to efficiently improve or expand services? What are your thoughts?
Before we move into discussions, I'd like to go over meeting etiquette and decorum. We ask that until you're called upon to speak, that your mic remain on mute. If you have any questions for staff tonight, please use the raise hand button. This is the smiley face button with the hand up in the top right corner of your screen. If you have a question and you have to leave, or you prefer to write instead of ask it, you can use the show conversation button, which is located just to the left of the raise hand button. We have a note taker on the call taking down questions we might not be able to answer immediately, so we can follow up with the response. Those detailed responses, along with the ones that some of you submitted ahead of time, will be available on the Budget 2022 website in the coming weeks. Once that Q&A is up, we will forward a link to your email address. Finally, we understand that talking about budget can bring up passions in everyone, but it's important that everyone have their voice heard. So please treat each other and staff with respect and refrain from any kind of personal attacks or name calling, and be sure to allow others the opportunity to ask questions. As we move to the discussion period of the meeting, I'd first like to ask if anyone has any feedback from the presentations. At the end of the presentation, we touched on 3 areas, so we're going to start with that. The first is services. Do you want to play the slide for that one again? As we see, we already have a couple hands up. We're going to go ahead and start with Dave Helmer. Please go ahead.
Sorry, Dave, we can't hear you yet. I think you've got your mic muted. Please try to unmute and go ahead. Dave, we still can't hear you. Just try one more time for us, please, to unmute your microphone, and if not, we'll move on to our next speaker and we'll come back to you.
Okay, we'll move forward with Jim Norman, please.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for organizing this. This is very appropriate and needed, I think, as far as the budget process. Although we talked about the expenditures and so on, one thing that I see that's missing throughout this is sort of the revenue piece. And maybe I'm a little bit off topic, but I'm wondering around on the business side, what we're doing around encouraging businesses and so on to come in, because there's significant dollars that come in on the tax dollar side over and above the residential piece that in turn would provide us with more dollars to expend on these various infrastructure projects and so on. So I better look at the budget and so on, and I'm just wondering where we stand on that piece, because I don't see that in the presentation here at all.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll start and I'll call upon our treasurer, Ms. LaPont, to help me out if I miss anything. So in terms of revenue for our budget, we are seeking additional ministry grants. And we complete applications on a regular basis. We're also working with grant organizations to make sure we can apply for every opportunity that's available. In addition, for another source of revenue for Norfolk County is our user fees and service charges. So within the user fees and service charges, we are, council did just adopt yesterday a 2.5% increase on all fees. So that will help us keep pace. But I think what you're really targeting is what are we doing to make sure our tax revenue goes up and for our growth? So I think that's a great question that I'm going to take back for our development team so that they can help us provide a better answer for you. But I'm not sure if somebody else has anything to mention.
Can I just add to that? It's really what I'm looking at is how do we have business growth and so on. What are we doing on economic development to get business growth and in turn continue to raise up the amount of business revenue? That's really the question that I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've got that taken down as the question is related to business growth and what are we doing in Norfolk County to ensure we're increasing the revenues related to making sure more businesses are coming to Norfolk County.
Okay, moving forward, it looks like Kim Earls has a question.
Hello, thank you very much. Yeah, just to sort of build on Mr. Norman's comment or question, just to again look at the revenue generation side and the collaboration side to ensure that we're doing all we can. And I was happy to hear about the the grants that we're applying for, but again, also capitalizing on collaborations with neighboring counties and other organizations such as the chambers and other business related organizations, I think becomes very important. And there are several.
I think that's an excellent point, Kim. And as part of the budget guidance that Council had adopted this year, we are working to engage with those stakeholders as part of this process to ensure that we can try to work together to ensure we have the most revenue and that we're moving in a direction that also, meets the needs of our stakeholders as well. So I appreciate those comments, and we'll just add that on to the business growth question to see if our economic development people have anything else to add on that question or comment. Thanks, Kim.
Jim, did you have a follow-up or did you just leave your hand up from the last question?
No, I have another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. These are some of the questions that came out of the Delhi Chamber of Commerce, so I just sort of discussing them. One around is the you said about the operational piece and so on. Has the county undertaken sort of operational reviews and external operational review to look at the services and how better to utilize them from an efficiency point of view?
Thanks, Jim, for your question. That's an excellent question. Last year, as you may be familiar with, the county did do a corporate realignment later in the year, and we strategically tried to place groups within our departments and divisions that could find some efficiencies, some synergies, create some innovation, and that is still a work in progress as we work through the processes in each of those areas. We have an administrative business process review committee currently with the county, and a number of those efficiency items are on that agenda on a regular basis, and we hope to do some reporting out to both internally to staff and externally to the public and our stakeholders on some of those efficiencies that we're going to be creating and hopefully see those impacts in the budget.
A question for you. Have you reached out to the county residents and so on to see if there's any expertise out there that might provide assistance? I know I have a background in operational efficiency, but I mean, are there others that might have that in the county and we can help with any efficiencies that may be realized?
Thanks for that comment, Jim. Certainly if part of the budget engagement process is to generate those ideas, and I believe we have the last slide focused on efficiencies, but certainly if you have some feedback to make, or perhaps we can arrange a call or have a discussion and you can provide some further input that we can report back to council on as well.
Thanks, Kim. Did you have a follow-up?
I did. I'm so sorry. I'm just wondering if there is an opportunity for staff to be able to post the survey questions somewhere online again, just to serve as a bit of a memory jogger where maybe folks can provide a bit more detail to the information that was provided there. So for instance, some of the questions, and I understand in a survey it's tricky to get everything, but some of them didn't leave a lot of room for some detailed information, but they would be excellent as sort of a guide for thoughts for anyone that wanted to submit some further information or ideas. So I just wondered if that would be available at any point, or if that would be kind of too time consuming to put up.
Thanks for that question, Kim. It's an excellent comment. I'll post the link to the budget engagement report that was presented to council that summarized the survey questions and comments in the Teams chat, but we'll also include that on our website. Thanks again for that comment. It's an excellent suggestion.
Jim, did you have something to add?
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep having a number of questions here. The other part is around what are the long-term corporate strategies? You know, we talk about a 10-year plan and so on. Is that something, I know it's available, but I'm wondering whether the public needs to see that on a more graphic basis and so on, so they understand sort of over the next 10 years, what is the plan of the county? Because a lot of the focus I know every year is obviously on the current budget, but I'm wondering whether we need more emphasis on the longer term strategies and how the current budget fits in with that.
Thanks for that question, Jim. There's a couple of initiatives underway. We have the council strategic plan that is a simplified document and it's graphically displayed. We'll share that link in our FAQ so it's readily available. It's posted on the county website now. And the other piece is just the corporate strategies. And I don't want to put Ms. Stefik on the spot, but she's done a number of work, significant work in creating some dashboards on the county website with regular reporting and updates to talk about some of the corporate strategies. And we'll add that link as well to the FAQ. It's a good resource for the public, and it is very simplified and graphically displayed as well. And our goal is to provide quarterly updates on the website or as significant changes happen within those projects, and then an annual report to council and of course for the public to see as well.
Okay, were there any other questions or comments with regards to the area of focus specifically to services? Dave Helmer submitted the following question. He's having some problems on his end. He said, is it possible to remove the heavy subframes from snow plows? Removing those would increase load capacity and allow trucks to operate more efficiently.
Thanks, Dave. So we have submitted that question to our fleet experts. And as part of the follow-up from this call, when we send out the link, you will see that the response to that question posted on our budget page. So we will let you know when the information is available, but I would agree that sounds like a great efficiency, and hopefully our fleet experts can let you know if we are considering that or what they think it would take to do that in the future.
So the second area of focus that we're going to focus on is infrastructure. Are there any comments or questions with regard to this? Going to move over to efficiency. So does anyone have any ideas on what you could have, what ideas you have that can improve efficiency within county operations? They would like to know why the county does not rust-proof county vehicles.
Thanks, Dave. So I'm going to paraphrase a little bit the response that we've received back from our fleet team so far on that question, but the fulsome answer will be posted on our webpage. So the county does rest proof the new vehicles that we do receive. Our fleet department has confirmed. So I think there were a little bit more technical details on that will be provided when we update our website with the questions, with the answers to our questions.
Another follow-up from Dave. Why does the county not buy lower level trim for pickup trucks?
Thank you, Dave. We will submit that again with to our fleet experts, and they will respond to that question, and we'll post it on our webpage. I think it sounds like we've got an expert in vehicles here, so I think hearing from you and your expertise is definitely of benefit to us in Norfolk County. So thank you for your questions, Dave.
At this time, does anyone have any follow-up questions with regards to the 3 areas? Seeing none, we're going to open up the floor to general Q&A. Dave says he feels that XLT trim levels are more expensive. Something else to add?
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Okay, Alan, please go ahead.
Yes, good evening. I'm Alan Strangen with the Port Dover Lions Club, and mine is more of just a comment. It's a great session you guys are running tonight, but my comment is on the Port Dover Lions Community Center and the agreement that we have recently come to with the county and managing the facility. And in the short few months that we've been doing it, I think it's a great win-win for both sides. I think since COVID, bookings have been allowed to open up, business is kind of booming, all things considered. And I would highly encourage other organizations in other parts of the county to look into maybe getting into a management arrangement such as ourselves have with the community center here in Port Dover. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Alan. Moving forward with Jim. Jim has another question or comment.
Yeah, just one question. You'd mentioned about involving the chambers of commerce. Any idea when those meetings will be happening? I assume over the next few weeks. We haven't heard anything as yet. I just was wondering.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. We will reach out to you. We'll try to connect with our clerk's department for your contact information, and we'll send you an email and ask, have some discussions before our levy budget deliberations that will be presented in January.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any input then on the operational budget as well?
The operational budget?
Yeah, which you're talking, the levy budget. Okay, fine. No,
yes.
Okay.
So yes, the terminology
yes.
I'm using interchangeably. So the levy budget is the operating budget, and so we'll try to touch base with you in the next couple of weeks, Jim, and just try to get some communication back and forth and just thoughts from the group on what you'd like to see from the county in the future and the budget.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Did you have a follow-up, Alan?
No, I didn't, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Are there any other questions, feedback, conversation? Kathy?
Thanks, Jara. I just wanted to touch on Alan's comment about the Port Dover Community Center and the agreement. I thank him very much for encouraging other organizations. The last 2 years has been the first time Norfolk County has reached out to the community to seek some partnerships and try to find efficiencies and have the community more involved in running the halls and community centers and arenas, etc. So I really do appreciate your comment, Alan, and we do hope to see more participation with other groups. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Opening back up to the floor, any questions, comments? Jim, go ahead, please.
Hey, one last comment. Sorry, I keep asking these questions or making comments. I think this has been very productive tonight. It's too bad there aren't more people on the call, but hopefully this is something maybe we can do on a more regular basis, even during the year around, you know, what's happening, how are we doing against the budget, those sorts of things. And in turn, being able to ask questions as the year progresses. Obviously not every month or something, but even once a quarter or once or semi-annually, I think would be of great benefit.
Thanks, Jim. Kim put in the chat, is there a template or opportunity to speak to Alan regarding how the partnership for the Port Dover Community Center agreement was made with the county?
Thanks for that question, Kim. I believe there was a report presented to council, and I'll pull that up for your reference, with respect to the call for submission process for both operating and partnerships for arenas and community halls, and that was a result of one of the updated reports, but I'll send that off to you, Kim. Let me just pull it up.
Thanks, Kim. Is there, oh, we've got, Dave has a COVID question. Is that appropriate at this time? I guess it depends on what it's regarding. You can go ahead and ask, and then we'll determine if it's appropriate. Waiting to see if Dave is going to follow up with his question. In the meantime, is there anyone else with any further questions for us tonight? I think we're good. Oh, right here. Who or how do you report COVID violations?
Thanks for that question, Dave. Certainly, you can contact Norfolk County Service Norfolk, and that's 519-426-5870. And that phone is answered live, and a staff member can direct you over to the health unit. I'll also provide you with an email address that you can send an email inquiry in as well.
Will you put that in the chat, Shelley? Bara and John ask, anything in the budget to increase public access to Lake Erie and Black and Lynn Rivers?
Thanks, Bara and John. At this time, I'm not aware of anything in the budget to increase public access, but we will take that question back and just check with the experts in those areas to make sure there's nothing that I'm not aware of in the budget.
Hey, anyone else? If following this session, you think of a question that you maybe didn't think of at the time, you can forward those questions to communications@norfolkcounty.ca, and we will see that we get an answer for you. Again, as I mentioned earlier, in the coming weeks, we will be collecting these questions and putting the answers onto the website, and I will send a link to everyone who's participated tonight so that they have access. I just want to take the opportunity on behalf of the team to thank you for joining us tonight. And I think this concludes the 2022 budget engagement session.
Please.